It has been a historic few days of change in this country, with a new Prime Minister taking over during a critical moment for Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney took calls from world leaders on Saturday, and today he'll meet with Quebec's Premier, François Legault. Donald Trump's trade war very much shaping all of those conversations. Earlier, I spoke with Canada's Ambassador to the United States about the government's strategy. Ambassador Hillman, nice to see you. Nice to see you in person. Appreciate you making the time.
Great to be here. Thanks, Rosemary.
And I know you've been here a lot this week. You were briefing the new Prime Minister Carney, a little bit. But I want to talk about what brought you back to Washington in the middle of the week as well. And that was to meet with Secretary Howard Lutnick, with Dominic LeBlanc, and with the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. Doug Ford says it was a productive meeting. It was the best meeting he's had. How would you characterize the meeting?
It was a good meeting.
Okay.
It was actually different than I think some of the meetings that we've had to date, in that it was a big meeting. So Secretary Lutnick was there, the United States Treasury Representative Jameson Greer was there, but they each had 3 senior officials with them. And part of that is because the administration is actually just getting some of those senior people in place, and then other experts. So that in and of itself made for a different kind of meeting. And it was fairly long. It was like an hour and 15 minutes. We kind of did 2 things, essentially. They wanted to take time to walk us through President Trump's trade agenda, not just as it relates to Canada, which is what we've been talking about mostly to date, but globally the vision. We've read the documents, we've read the America First trade policy, but they really wanted to walk us through how he feels the United States needs to change its posture internationally on trade. So that was quite useful. And then it offered us an opportunity to ask questions, but also to kind of push back, right, and give our perspective on how that trade agenda may be misunderstanding the value of the Canada-U.S. integration, maybe misunderstanding how the disruption that we're feeling these days is really hurting Americans, American jobs and American consumers, and to make some of the points around resilience and how we contribute to economic resilience, national security. So that's what it was. It was a fairly concrete, if I can put it that way, meeting, which I appreciated and I think was very useful to have.
But nothing changed coming out of it. Obviously, we're looking for all the tariffs to be removed, and they, I imagine, are looking for the same. So then, how do you proceed in the coming weeks, knowing that we've got this next deadline of April 2nd? And I would point out that it did seem to be the electricity surcharge that forced this conversation, and Doug Ford's decision to hit pause on that.
Yes. I think that the conversation was part of the discussion that Premier Ford had with Howard Lutnick. He gave us a very clear message that, and he did it publicly, Mr. Lutnick, Secretary Lutnick, that, it's important for us to try to have a more how can I put it, sort of serious response? And measured conversation. And, Canada wants that too. I actually, speaking for myself and from Washington, I think having a serious, measured conversation befits our serious relationship and the importance of it to both of our countries. So that also, I think, was positive. We got to that place, I think, because of Premier Ford's actions and the reaction to them. But I'm glad that we're in that place, or we're trying to be in that place. Let's put it that way.
It does seem as though Secretary Lutnick, though, said ahead of this meeting that he thought Canada was tone deaf, that he didn't appreciate the way we were responding. Is it because they don't believe that we are going to respond? They don't understand the seriousness of the impact on our economy? Why is that the characterization of what we're doing?
I think they know we're going to respond. I think they have no illusion, because we've said it since the beginning, that we will respond in a way that is, I think, befitting, again, our need to stand up for Canadians. I think that particular response hit a nerve. And I think that's what he was reacting to specifically. And I think that we are also I think Canadians need to recognize that the way in which this administration communicates in public is quite animated, right? That's a very diplomatic word for it, I think.
Yes, it is.
And I just think we need to kind of understand that, and maybe not always take every single interview completely to heart. And it doesn't mean that it's appropriate. Doesn't mean that we may not feel that it's respectful. But on the other hand, we are having to move from here to a place where we can solve these problems with the Americans, and we're going to have to do so in a manner that sets a tone that works, and it goes both ways. There's no question about it. But
do you have the impression that reopening USMCA before the 2026 deadline is of any interest to the American administration?
I think it's too soon to tell.
Okay.
I think they're deeply focused on this April 2nd deadline and rolling out their global plan for Canada and almost less for Canada. It's the rest of the world that is going to now be brought into their plan. And that is their singular focus. After that happens, then we'll see what they think the next step might be. But this is all of their attention is towards April 2nd.
The new Prime Minister Carney, has made a decision to go to Europe next week to meet with sort of traditional allies, in part because, he doesn't have an invitation from President Trump, but in part because he is concerned with the lack of respect being shown to this country, particularly, of course, around the comments about annexation. Do you see any movement on that front in relation to those comments, which were repeated again and again last week, that this is not something that the president's backing away from?
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see a change in that commentary. But again, I would say as long as Canadians are clear, which we are, that there's no way that that's going to happen, we can just own that reality, right? Yeah. I don't think we need to. We can. Yes, there are comments that Canadians find disrespectful. The Prime Minister has clearly said he finds disrespectful. Those are facts. But in a way, we can't control President Trump's behavior. We can control our behavior, and we can enter into these discussions and into this relationship from a position of confidence and strength. We know who we are. We know our value to ourselves, but we know our value in that relationship. And I do think that that's an important posture, strong, business-like, clear, and really advocating for the practicalities of where we're at.
You were briefing Prime Minister Carney before he became Prime Minister, giving him, I guess, some advice maybe on how to deal with the administration. Do you think that he should get on the phone with the president as quickly as possible? What should he be doing in this moment as the new Prime Minister?
I think that conversation will come when the time is right. I think that there are many steps that he and his new cabinet are going to take in the coming days. He has said he wants to talk to the president. Of course, he should talk to the president, and I hope that they do talk. Does it have to be, in the next 12 or 24 hours? No, it doesn't have to be. I think it'll come when the time is right.
Is it important that some of those players, you included, and some of the ministers remain on that file to take advantage of the relationships that you and they have built up with the administration? Absolutely.
It is the continuity here with the relationships, it's not that easy to build trust, especially in a time of tension and challenge, and that trust is being built. Jameson Grew is the USTR. I've known him for 10 years, and so these are relationships of trust that we want to continue to work with. And so absolutely, I think that having Minister LeBlanc as Trade Minister, I think makes an awful lot of sense.
Okay, Ambassador, thank you. We'll leave it there. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.